Okay. Welcome back to the Hive Mind.
Not good morning.
Hey, good morning. It's actually 5 a.m. right now when we're recording this. Just kidding.
We pulled an all-nighter.
Yeah.
Yes, we stayed up just to record just
Only
for y'all.
for you.
Mm-hmm.
Only
For
you.
our couple viewers. We love you.
Thank you.
Thank you for sticking around.
Each one of you.
Yes. Well, I'm Genevieve.
Autumn.
Abby.
I'm Alexis.
Tim, you all said Autumn, Abby. Me and Alexis are like, I'm Genevieve. I'm Alexis. You guys are like, Autumn, Abby. Aggressive, getting to the point. Okay, does anyone have anything they want to talk about? Light-spirited, maybe, hopefully, before we get into
The part 2.
the shit of part 2, because you may not think this case could get worse, but it literally, it gets worse.
You know, I don't know.
I
Today was a
could
good
tell a
day.
quick story how I pissed a guy off at the bar because I catch bigger fish than him.
Oh, I want to hear this.
Yeah,
Okay,
please do.
All
it's
right.
quick. So my friend Emily, shout out to Emily,
Hi.
she has this friend at the bar, and we were all sitting down like talking, and I don't know what got onto the topic of fish, but I brought up like how I catch fish, like decent sized fish, and they were all like,
Hogs.
they were like, oh, no, you don't fish. The one kid was like, no, you don't fish. No, you don't fish. And then, like, I started showing him pictures. And his friends were all like, dude, that's a fucking whopper. That's huge. Like, all this
That's
shit,
a
like, hyping me
hog.
up more. And I'm just like, yeah. Like, boom, boom. Like, and I went, like, fucking full, like, beast on this kid.
As you should.
And I was like, what's the matter? You can't catch fish? Do you want me to show you? It's okay. I'll take you fishing sometime and I'll show you how to fish. Like, and he would like look at a picture. He'd be like, where the fuck did you catch this? And I'd be like, oh, the lake I used to live at. He'd be like, where the fuck did you catch this one? And I'd be like, oh, a lake up north. And he'd be like, what the fuck? And then he would try to look for a fish that was bigger than mine. And he'd pull up one of his, he's like, it's close enough. And all his friends are like, no, dude, she's got you beat. And I was just like,
Oh, yeah.
I went home and the kid's like, please, can you take me fishing sometimes? Please, promise me you'll go fishing with me sometimes. I'm like, okay, like we'll go fishing. Like we'll go. Like chill. Chill, dog.
That's awesome.
Okay, anyone else? Because this is going to get scary. Okay. Let me situate. Okay. So I have a correction before I get way into like the story. So last episode, when I said like when he was a teenager and he called for like Viagra, so it wasn't when he was a teenager because Viagra didn't hit the market till 1998. So he didn't call until later in his life to see if Viagra would help him get off by not torturing, murdering, kidnapping,
Wasn't that
raping.
when he was dating Cindy Hindi?
Yep.
Interesting.
So he does all this stuff for years before he started dating Cindy Hindi and then says, all right, let me see if I can just get off without doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it was just because it had just come out. So I think it was like this whole like, oh my God, this can help solve
All your problems.
all your problems. You can get your dick hard. Like,
That would make sense.
but so like it probably was like, oh, let's see what this does. But
So will this help my situation?
no, it did not.
Mm-mm.
well,
wish it
thank you
did.
for that correction.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure so that way like y'all get the right information.
Do you want to do like a paragraph beforehand? That way.
Okay, so like we'll touch up where like I'll touch up parts. So like we went over like Cynthia's entire story. Well, most of it. And then we ended kind of like I went over like parts of the audio tape, and I do have like one or two more parts of the audio tape that pertain to the story, which will come later. They're awful, disgusting. I also actually listened to the audio tape because
Did
before
you?
the first episode, I was like, no, I don't want to listen to it. And I did. I could not get past like 10 minutes. And I was like, okay, this man's voice. Like, I was about to
That's
cry.
what I told you. He was so
Yeah.
monotone and like,
I was about to like cry because I was like just like picturing what these women felt. And I was just like, holy shit.
yeah.
So we kind of ended with the FBI Behavioral Science Unit was coming in And Cindy Hindi, little snake bitch she is, said, "I'll talk if I can talk to the behavioral science unit." Okay. So she had informed like them that she knew all the shit he had done prior to meeting her for the past like 30 years. So she like made it very clear that very early on that he believed, or she made it, holy hell. I'm having a stroke trying to read this already. We're not even fully into it. So Cindy had started talking. She told the police that David had made it very clear that early on he believed that he owned all women around him and that they were solely for the purpose of giving him pleasure.
So the women are just here for pleasure.
Sex
basically.
slaves.
Great.
And I'll get a little bit more into that, like how that kind of starts too. So, and he had told Cindy about his first murder. He said it was when he was around 19 or 20 years old.
Wow.
So like our age.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine murdering someone at our age.
No.
He
Well, I mean, no, in general.
no,
Yeah.
not allowed.
Maybe when I'm older.
Once you hit 22,
Nah.
then it's different.
So he had abducted a random schoolgirl. Doesn't say the age. I couldn't find it anywhere, like how old, or her name or anything. He tied her to a tree, raped her, beat her, strangled her to death, and he told Cindy Hindi that he loved it. And he became aroused by this whole process, even the murder.
So that was the start.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. A little nasty if you ask me. You little sticky icky. From that point on, he didn't strike at random. He found that he liked to target sex workers because he thought that they were less equal. And that's what majority of the population, like including like police officers, thought of sex workers, is that they were less equal because they're out doing drugs,
using their
having sex
body,
for
is what they like to
money,
say.
but like it's a human being.
Mm-hmm.
They are a human being.
Mhm.
They have a life. They
It's
have a
just
reason
their
to
job.
live.
They're just trying
They
to get money.
need money.
Yeah.
They need to live.
They're a hustler.
Mhm.
Yeah. So Cindy Hindi, she said he did have a type. He abducted women he physically found attractive.
Traffic
cones?
sign?
Yes, he liked traffic cones and the signs. So it's funny because Cindy Hindi was not his type at all.
Interesting.
He liked women of Asian or Latina heritage with big honkers. And I quote, big honkers. Now, apparently he had lived in Fence, New Mexico, where he like kind of like started, which is a super tiny place with a population of 50 people.
What?
Holy
50?
shit.
50.
I thought our town was small.
90% of
No.
the place was like ranches and farms. So like that's why it's so
Yeah.
small. He owned farmland. He raised cattle. I just realized I spelled cattle wrong.
Yeah, I
you-
can see it from right here.
Yeah, I spelled it with 2 D's instead of T's.
Cattle.
Cattle. So he raised cattle and like all that other kind of like animal farm yeehaw. And he told her while he was living there, he had been interviewed by the FBI about the disappearance of tons of women in the area because the FBI had gotten a tip that he had been doing some like sex slavery / human trafficking / murdering.
A tip?
So he's already on their radar.
So the tip that
Yeah.
claimed David Ray had been doing all this stuff to women, like kidnapping and trafficking them, it's alleged that it came from Jessie Ray, his daughter.
Oh, shit.
Now, later you'll kind of see why Jessie Ray did this. And then later flips to the other side of the coin. changes her mind. You'll see. You will see. Because it's fucking nuts. Okay. So he didn't leave. He was really smart when it came to doing what he was doing. Because he knew they didn't have the evidence, he told Cindy Hindi this proudly, and he, quote, talked his way out of the situation.
So, well, I mean, that ties us back to the beginning that he was this park ranger worker, and
he was so
everyone was like,
smart when it came to this. Like, he knew exactly what he had to do. And even towards like the end, what the fuck? So after this, after like a couple years of staying there just to like keep it on the down low, even though I'm sure he wasn't, he became a drifter. And at one point he moved to Alaska. He moved to a lot of different places. And he was using a police badge. So like, you know, like the like costume ones.
So he was impersonating.
He was using those to kidnap women.
Also,
Wow.
additional federal.
Yeah.
Not
Offense.
good. I can't
federal
remember what the word I was thinking of.
Not good. Yeah.
Don't do it.
No, boy,
I
no.
was trying to think of offense, and I was like, wait, what the fuck is the word?
So he used those everywhere he went, and this can be why there's not a lot of bodies or evidence, because he would just leave it behind. No one could track
he
it.
Traveled so
Yes.
much.
Now, because he lived on a farm back in the what was the town name? Fence. Thank you.
That's in
I
Mexico, right?
just saw it.
I think
Thank
New
you.
Mexico.
Because he lived back on the farm, I'm pretty sure the way he had evidence there was he would feed it to like pigs and his farm animals.
Well, and that actually makes sense because pigs are
They'll
literally
eat
known that they
anything.
will eat
Their
bones.
stomachs
Yeah.
are
Yup.
so acidic. It
Yeah.
can break it down.
Yep. He also told Cindy that he had killed over 30 people in around 40 years, and that 18 of them happened in Sierra County, where they were currently living, or by the Butte Park. He also said that there were bodies that could be found in Texas, Arizona, Alaska, and multiple other places.
Wow.
He's
So,
a
like, that's
country
how
traveler.
literally he went everywhere. She also told police that he was incredibly meticulous when it came to removing any ties or connections of himself to his victims. He would remove stuff like jewelry, clothing, shoes, any personal items. So like bags, like shoes, you're wearing a specific t-shirt, you have a specific type of jewelry that you wear that has your name on it. It's gone. This would be counting those 401. Holy hell, y'all, it's been a day. Items that the police found that were not his or Cindy's in his house. So that was like all of them.
He was removing their identity.
Yep.
Wow.
So they weren't like trophies. They were just removing
ways to
evidence.
get rid of them.
Oh, that's true. I could think of them as trophies because, like,
Well, yeah, because a lot of
murderers
people
do
do
that.
that.
A lot of like
but he
killers,
was just
murderers,
doing it
Just,
to cover.
they
Me
keep
same people.
trophies
Wow.
to relive the situation, which is nasty. Me with my Lewis Tomlinson band.
It's still on.
No,
Oh.
I took it off. It was laying on the bed, and I leaned over and grabbed it, and I was like, Jacob, don't you ever throw this away. He goes, why? It's just a wristband. I said, I am keeping this forever.
Frame it.
I will.
That's what you said.
And the
you were
picture
gonna-
of Lewis pointing at me.
Yeah.
And I just have the wristband going across. Yes. Anyways, back to the story. He told very detailed stories to Cindy about other various murders throughout the years, like where he had shot girls in the back of the head and such. In one instance, he said that he was dumping a body. He threw the body into the ravine and like just kind of like tossed some dirt over it. And when he got back home, he thought to himself, you know what? I'd really like to keep that particular girl's skull as a trophy.
So he
Would
did
you
keep
look at that?
trophies.
Just of the bodies themselves.
So he went back, and there was a huge, like, giant dog standing over her grave, like her very shallow grave.
The one that he made himself, right?
Yes, he took that as a bad omen, and he just left. So he
So
did
now
not.
he believes in omens.
Mhm.
Yeah, so he did not get that trophy.
Didn't you
luckily.
say earlier on that he had like candles on skulls?
Those were fake skulls.
Yeah, I was
like
gonna say
dollar
decoration.
store, like
Mhm.
buy those around Halloween. Spooky witch vibes.
Spirit Halloween.
Yes, exactly. And then he would put like candles beside them. I couldn't find if they were real or like the ones you just turn on with a switch.
Well, I actually saw in one of the
I was gonna
videos
say, I
in the trailer
think
they
they
had
were-
like one of those 3 candles.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, kind of back to the toy box. A lot of the devices that were found in it were made by David Parker Ray himself. This gets a little gross. The leg spreader that they found is exactly what it sounds like. So it would hold your legs open. But if a woman attempted to close her knees,
It would get bigger.
spikes would impale into her legs on either side.
Ow.
And at the time, they also found a Freddy Krueger glove that he had made himself. And he named it the Freddy Krueger glove.
Why?
It was a
Such
glove
a
that had
weird-
blades
very
on all the
creative.
fingers.
You know, like that one scene where they go up in the
Oh my
tub with that girl in the
God.
tub?
Yeah.
Yeah, that glove.
So
Jesus.
another sex toy that he had was made out of PVC pipe. And sorry, I don't know what I wrote there. And literally it's like it's huges. What does that mean?
I saw your head just go.
I was like trying to figure out what I wrote there. So I think I meant it's huge. He would mark the inches to see like how deep he could get it.
No.
It also has nails that he melted into the PVC pipe that would literally tear someone's insides and outsides.
At the bottom of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What in the
Yeah.
fuck?
Okay. This next part, I'm going to give a little trigger warning for animal abuse. It's not like a beating. It's not your typical animal abuse, but it is disgusting. I almost cried writing this part because it's so sad to think about because the animal didn't know what it's doing. It doesn't
Mhm.
know any better, but it's also like you're putting it through the
Following
situation.
animal
Right.
instinct.
Yes. So, in part of his audio tape, it was explaining to the women that they would be strapped into the contraption that would forcibly bend someone over. I'm smiling because I see your guys' reaction. I'm not smiling because of this. I just want to make that clear. Like, you guys, I had just said the small part, and I look over at Abby, she's like,
I know because it clicked. I think I know what you're gonna say.
So it would forcibly bend them over. He would have people over for parties.
What?
And his sex slave would be the star of the party placed in the contraption. So what he would do is he would spray breeding spray on their back, boobs, and sex organs. From then, his German Shepherd would come out and he would have the German Shepherd rape them in front of a room full of people.
Oh my God. That is
The silence is so
horrible.
loud in this room.
What in the flying fuck is that?
I listened to that part of the tape where he talks about that these women are going to go through it. He goes into graphic fucking detail.
I didn't get to that part.
No, it's like halfway through I skipped through because I read this and I was like, holy shit, this is in the tape. And I wanted to see if it was just like a small little clip. No, it's like a 15-minute part of the audio tape.
Really?
Going into deep fucking detail. And I had like tears in my eyes.
Wow.
It was so sad because this poor dog is just doing its animal instinct. It doesn't know what it's doing.
No.
Follows
just-
breeding smells.
Yes.
literally.
Yeah.
It's the breeding smell that gets it excited, and it's not going to control itself. So
What the fuck?
now Cindy also corroborated Cynthia's statement of David Parker Ray taking a bunch of pictures of her and her torture during her stay. Previous women during their stays. Cindy said David loved taking pictures of the progress or the process, but often would destroy a set of photos over a period time to keep the evidence minimal. So he would, from like a month ago, he would have those photos, and then if they were 3 months later, he would destroy those photos from a month ago.
Interesting.
So, hello. My neck is hurting from like sitting like that, so I'm trying to find a better position. Aside from the journals that we spoke about in part 1, he also kept something that was called physiological forms. So like doctor's forms.
No.
So these forms were contained with weirdly clinical information about the victim's weight, height, age, as if this motherfucker was playing doctor.
Wow.
Would he would ask questions to the patients?
You think he was asking?
Well, motherfucker, I feel like he would.
He could just guesstimate. All right.
I think he actually had a scale and was like weighing them.
I was going
Was
to say,
he
I don't think he
measuring
asked
them?
because, like, the one
He-
that escaped, she was so drugged.
Yes.
You know, like,
Yes.
There's no
Well,
way
it's
he
like
was
a
asking him.
psychological form. Is he like asking questions?
physiological form.
Oh.
Like when you go in for a physical to the doctors.
Oh yes, I don't know why I'm reading it. Psychological.
It kind of looks like that.
I
I
also
might
don't
have
have my
mistyped it,
glasses
but
on.
I knew what it meant.
He's asking them telepathically
it was
how
like-
tall they are.
I thought it was like psychological form, and like he would ask some questions
What's
about how
your
they're
blood
feeling.
pressure?
that's crazy.
What's
though.
your zodiac sign? Anyways, Cindy said at first she was never present for the murders, but did admit to being there for the abduction and torture, which I think is a load of bullshit.
If you can sit there and watch him
Because
be tortured.
exactly, you were for sure there for a murder. You saw it. If you were there for the torture, you saw the murder. She is a damn
Also,
murdering, lying sack of dookie.
wasn't she
Agreed.
trying to kill Cynthia when she was like running away?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Fucking lying bitch.
So she came out with a pretty big confession relating to that. She said in February 1999, only a month before abducting Cynthia Vigil, she and David took a woman named Angela. Now, this woman was released alive, according to Cindy. She said they left her on the side of the highway after the torture. We'll get more into depth about her story a little bit later. It comes more right towards the end, and that's like the one thing that really gets him like busted.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So David Parker Ray would not talk. Police were scrambling like a motherfucker to try and get any information and like anything aside from what Cindy had told them. His coworker and boss were completely shocked. Like I said, I think in part 1, his boss even went as far as to put him on paid leave because he didn't think David was guilty. Well, I wonder how he feels now.
Well, you're wrong.
In a documentary about this case, they interviewed one of his coworkers, and the guy was like, yeah, he was a really nice guy. And then just started showing off David's work car that he would use in the park.
Interesting.
Just like, yeah, this is David's car. He's
It
really
was
cool.
almost like it's a treasure. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, we have this thing of his.
Oh,
Mm.
also a welding mask that was his with his name on it. They still have it.
They kept it. Yeah.
And original tools that he used or he made for people around the park.
Like
Like-
pipes with like ropes through them to
To
like
catch
noose
snakes. Yeah.
Yeah.
They still have them. All of them.
Get out. Get it out
Throw
of
those
here.
bitches away.
Do you not listen to what he did? Listen to this podcast. I'll tell you what he did.
I just also like the fact that you have comments on. You're like, the fuck?
That's the next paragraph. I'll read the comments. So David Ray's sister was not shocked in the slightest bit. She referred back to the sketchbooks or the sketches in the books she found when he was 14. And at 14, he flat out told her, I cannot have sex without hurting anyone.
Wait,
This is
David told who?
his sister.
Oh.
And this is where I wrote, the fuck? Because what is she going to do? She's a child herself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why are you telling her?
No.
Go to the doctor.
You're
She
also
is a
14.
child.
Why are you trying to have sex?
A child. That was my other comment that she read.
It's really like in capitals.
Yes.
The fuck?
The fuck? A child. A child. I'm not showing you guys. Now, his son, David Jr., was not close to him. He was raised mainly by his grandmother. Investigators tried to see if they could use his son to get a confession out of David. He said his son burst into tears when they even just asked him. He said, I just don't know if I can turn on my father that way.
So you know stuff.
Even after everything his dad had done to him, he literally abandoned this child. Left him. Is a piece of shit.
Give him all the information. What do you like?
But I can also see, because it's if your mom had done anything, would you turn on her? Even though you know she did the bad thing. It's the normal instinct, that's your blood. I
Yeah.
feel like. So I can get it, but also
The
This one's a
extent
little
of what
but
he
it's
did, though.
okay, maybe let's just say a little something. Add to his character. He abandoned me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Boom.
Wow.
So obviously we have multiple victims and everything. So everything was a shitstorm of just chaos. The shit wins, Randy. The shit wins. If y'all know Trailer Park Boys, you know what I'm talking about. The journals had kept days, locations, and details about the murders, but no names. So none of that was compelling enough to be able to incriminate him. Those journals, he wrote down the numbers of times the women, in those journals, he wrote down the number of times he tortured women. So, everything in that journal couldn't be used because there were no names. They couldn't attach it to anyone. And he could just lie and say, I was just writing a book.
It's just my story.
Booked. So, since their capture, news was going nuts. Things were going crazy. It was nuts around the area, and it was national. It got everywhere.
As it should.
So this was actually a really good thing because it had led women to coming forward and explaining about their situations. So one of the women was Angelique Monato, I think is how you pronounce her last name. It's Motano. I think that's how you say it.
Sounds good.
She was a former resident of Truth or Consequences, which I'm pretty sure, I didn't look it up, I meant to, was around the area he was in. She hung around the same haunts as Cindy Hindi. And on Wednesday, February 17th, 1999, Cindy was hanging out with Angelica at some bar, and Cindy invited her back to her house to hang out. Sounds like a great idea, hanging out with Cindy Hindi.
Mm-hmm.
So they ambushed her. They chained her up in the same way that Cynthia was chained. They kept her for days, and she said Cindy helped Ray the whole 4 days that she was there. All the rapes, the tortures, the beatings. She ended up begging for her life and told them that she had a young child to take care of. And Cindy was the one that actually seemed to kind of soften up and care for that.
Weird.
If you're going to do this, why are you turning soft?
Didn't David have the words of encouragement?
Yes. I was just about to say, it was in the tape. No matter what you say, I'm not going to believe you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what?
Your girl did.
She believed her.
Cindy convinced David to drop her off at a random location. Now, she was picked up by an off-duty police officer. She told him the entire story. He said it was so crazy that it was a lie. So he never reported it.
Oh, lovely.
No way.
Imagine how that piece of shit feels now.
Oh my god.
I hope he got fired because that's
he
fucked.
had to.
That's fucked. Someone tells you anything, whether you think it's a lie or not, figure it out. That's literally your job as a police officer. Why are
you just pick someone up off the street?
Yeah,
probably not looking great.
Yeah, she has been beaten for the past 4 days.
And something like that detailed, you would think would be true. No one's gonna come up with that shit like immediately.
Exactly, like right on the spot. The fuck? So that pissed me off.
Especially on the side of the fucking road.
Yeah.
Now, so since she came forward and kind of told her story, this led investigators starting to really believe that there were a lot more victims than they had originally thought there were. So that kind of led the FBI to release some of the images they found among his items. Along with some of those women was one who had a very distinctive swan tattoo on, I think it was the right side or the right calf. They found an entire video of some of her torture. In the video, this gets graphic, so trigger warning. She is completely naked, strapped to the gyno chair. Holy, I'm having a stroke. She is very out of it, and he is just sitting there touching her.
And she's like flopping around too. Like
she is out of it.
No, like he'll move an arm and it's just fall. Like
like dead weight. I'll explain like what they got to her like here in a second. So, before the actual video of her torture, they said it like clipped to a part where David was in the toy box setting up his toys. And so he was walking around testing the audio to make sure he got the best video angles and sound possible.
Yep.
So like going to like separate parts of the room being like, hello,
test.
hello,
Yep.
hello. What the fuck? So all of a sudden after that, it cuts and it comes right back, and it's the woman in the chair. So the woman in this video, they enhanced her tattoo, and they were able to show just the tattoo on TV, saying, if you have this tattoo, please come forward. Which brought in a woman named Kelly Garrett, or I think she had a second last name. I can't remember. I didn't write it down for some reason. She came forward to say, holy shit, that's me in that video. Now, she was a nanny at the time, and she was friends with Jessie Ray. So remember how I said at the beginning this will flip on her? Yeah, it's about to flip on her.
Kelly's other last name was Van Cleve.
Thank you. I was trying to remember. I was like, what was it? What was it? I know I saw it a bunch of times, but I did not write it down. So she was friends with Jessie Ray, but she said she had never been to the David Ray's residence. So she didn't remember completely because she had been drugged before being let loose. Now, there's a quote from the audio tape which explains what kind of she was drugged with. So it says, quote, I get off on mind games. After we get completely through with you, you're going to be drugged up real heavy with a combination of sodium pentanol and fentocarbidol. They are both hypnotic drugs that will make you extremely susceptible to hypnosis, audio hypnosis, and hypnotic suggestions. You're going to be kept drugged for a couple of days while I play with your mind, and by the time I get through brainwashing you, you're not going to remember a little fucking thing about this adventure.
So he literally had a plan to basically hypnotize them?
Yeah. Which, like, what the fuck?
Wow.
How did this man do literally everything?
For real.
So Kelly Garrett said that for a whole year she would have nightmares where she would be chained up to something and couldn't get loose, and she would have a gag in her mouth, and she would wake up freaking out like, why am I having these dreams? She had no clue. It was actually real, and it was something that actually happened to her.
There were little bits,
Oh, okay, I
pieces.
see.
Yep.
So she would just remember like being like chained up, like little tiny things. So in July of 1996, she had been living in Butte with her husband. They had a fight. She left to blow off a little steam at a local bar where Jessie Ray liked to hang. There she started up a conversation with 29-year-old Jessie Ray. After this, after talking to Jessie all night, she told Kelly that she would give her a ride back home on her motorcycle. And she looked over at Kelly and said, "Oh, I just got to stop at my dad's real quick. Is that cool?" No, never.
Don't
never.
stop.
I gotta
Never.
go home.
Never. When they got there, Kelly waited in the living room of Satan's fucking den while Jessie went to chat with her dad real quick. And she said everything was whatever. And then all of a sudden, Jessie and her dad, David, come into the room with weapons and fucking duct tape.
So Jessie was involved?
What the fuck?
So
What the hell?
let me get a little bit more situated over here. So she was incapacitated and placed in the toy box. Luckily, Kelly doesn't remember any of the details because David had been forcing those drugs into her. But after 3 days of torture, he took Kelly in his state park uniform in his state park ranger vehicle to her in-laws' house and said he found her wandering on the beach and he just wanted to return her safely.
Stupid fuck.
Oh my God.
What the fuck? Manipulative to the fullest fucking extent. She said she never reported it because she never could remember so much. She started just believing it was a nightmare, and she could not believe it when she saw herself in that video. So back to part of the audio tape, he says, "Me and my lady friend have some kinky hang-ups." And if you think back, he hadn't met Cindy Hindi in 1993 when he made the audio tape. I am almost 99% certain he is talking about Jessie Ray.
No way.
I think there was some incest.
Y'all are gross as hell.
Yeah.
Well, I would believe it now because
I mean, am I
Jessie brought her
yeah.
friend
Yep.
back, and
Am I surprised? No.
yeah.
So, go ahead.
How does a daughter and a father that don't
This man looks like a toe. How are you sleeping with him?
Wow.
that and how are you like watching him have sex and raping these
Torturing.
these women, like watching your father do that?
And you're like, cute.
Oh my God.
So, now, immediately, Jessie Ray was arrested. On April 6, 1999, Cindy's lawyer offered the DA some information if they agreed to reduce her sentence. Now, Cindy told them that she had a whole lot more to say, and she ended up agreeing to testify against David. She said, she said he had introduced her to the passion for abducting, torturing, and killing women in his toy box pretty early on. At first, she was super shocked, but she was just so obsessed with him.
Didn't she say she didn't like the murder? Well, didn't do the murder, but it just said that
Yeah.
passion for killing.
Yeah.
Did I hear that
liar.
killing?
Yeah.
A woman?
Yeah, that's so crazy how she just,
Hypocritical liar.
lies. So she was so obsessed with him that she like let his kinky hang-ups slide.
You're obsessed with a man that's 30 years older than you?
Yeah, and he looks like a wet, moldy piece of lettuce.
The fuck?
How?
Yeah, he's not.
No, I would say I saw a picture. He ain't.
He ain't it.
In one of like the podcasts I listened to for like the research, the Morbid podcast, love them. They referred to him as a stinky leather shoe. And then do you know the Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker?
Yeah.
They said the shoe smelled like his breath.
Oh.
And that's just David Parker Ray in a whole match.
Ew.
Interesting.
Yeah. So she claimed that in the 1 month she moved in and helped him abduct several women. They were all in surrounding towns. They let some go, but there were at least 14 she knew were murdered.
In a month?
In a month.
Damn.
Wow.
Now, he had told her that he used the Butte Park to dispose of most of the bodies. And he told her he learned throughout the entire time that you can't just dump a body into water. Even if you weigh them down, the air will shoot them up to the surface. So what he would do to make the bodies stay under the water, he would eviscerate the bodies or remove all the organs. So there was no gas inside the body that could poof.
He did everything.
Yeah. So then she kind of dropped a bomb. She said it was not just David, Jesse, and Cindy doing this. There was someone else. The fourth person actually helped David murder one of his victims, and his name was Roy Yance. He was... What's so funny about that?
I think that's a funny name.
He was a younger kid. They ended up tracking him down and bringing him in. Now, they told him Cindy's story, and chick, chick, boom, he broke. He confessed to the whole thing. He said he was not involved in all the murders, but one time he was forced by David to murder a woman named Marie Parker. Now, Roy and Marie had been dating. He took her to a 4th of July party at David Parker Ray's house in 1997.
Oh my God.
Why are you going to a party with David Parker Ray?
First mistake.
Don't do it.
Everyone was super drunk. David had drugged Marie and forced Roy to go with him and drag her back to his toy box. Now, Roy said he had heard rumors of this toy box, but he had never seen it until then. He did not think it was real. Then David held a gun to Roy's head and handed him a rope and said, quote, "You know what you need to do." Roy said Roy said he had to make a choice, and he made a choice that would haunt him forever. So he strangled her to death. David drove, and he and Marie's body to Mochacello's Canyon. Holy hell. And buried her. Now, that was kind of like all the information he gave. So, lastly, 5 months before the trial for Kelly's rape and torture, suddenly they got word that Roy Yance changed his mind, refused to cooperate. He redacted his statement.
No.
So, according to the prison guards, Roy had received an anonymous note that simply said, quote, "Rats die in jail." You know who else dies in jail? A stinky leather shoe. Prosecutors were sure it was from David, but Roy was fucking terrified, and instead of cooperating, he just pled guilty to second-degree murder and was sentenced to 30 years in prison. So now all they had, other than the victims' like testimonies and everything, was Cindy's confession. But in November 1999, she also redacted her confession.
What the hell?
When David had learned that Cindy was turning on him, he started, testifying against him, he started sending her love letters and wooing her from his prison cell.
Oh my God.
She fell for it like the stupid cunt she is and filed for a motion to withdraw her plea agreement. And at one point, David got Cindy's name tattooed on him in prison.
Dude.
So this man's got Cindy Hindi somewhere on his fucking body. So David was sentenced to 224 years in prison. And Jesse Ray pleaded no contest in 2001 and was sentenced to 2.5 years in prison plus 5 years of probation.
That 2.5 years.
But did you read?
Yes.
Yep.
So she got that little of a charge because her dad took a plea deal and pled guilty for the remaining charges other than I think it was Kelly's. If his daughter Jessie Ray got time served and was let go.
Yep.
They accepted that.
They're like, okay.
Now, why the fuck would you do that? She literally murdered, raped, tortured, kidnapped people with her dad.
Yeah.
Brought people.
Yeah. So,
Not just an accomplice, like a literal.
An additional.
Yeah.
yeah. So, in May of 2002, David contacted authorities and said, okay, I'm ready to talk. I'll confess. Right before it, this motherfucker dies of a heart attack.
Yep. He didn't even get to live out how
He
many?
died 8 months after his sentencing. He was held for 2 years while awaiting trial, but only 8 months of his 224 years were served.
Yep.
What the hell?
So, in conclusion, fuck David Parker Ray, Cindy Hindi, Jesse Ray, and Roy Yance.
I agree, but to add to that, Cindy Hindi got out early.
Yeah, she
She did a
recently
plea-
was released.
Yep, in 2012.
She did a plea deal.
But she passed away. I don't know what year it was. But yeah, she was out in 2012 walking amongst us, not even on probation. They
Yep.
just let her out.
Yep.
They're like,
Oh,
okay.
fuck.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
I didn't check up on Jessie Ray, but I don't think she's doing much. I think she's
Just chilling at
hiding.
home watching TV.
I would.
Huh?
I would hide.
I thought you were saying like I would check up on Jessie Ray. I'm like, I don't have her number, girl. I can't do that. What you want me to do? Text her? Find her on Facebook?
Oh,
Please
like,
don't.
huh?
How y'all doing?
Well, that is part 2 of the Toy Box Killer,
The Toy Story.
the Toy Story Killer,
Yeah.
where Woody kidnaps Buzz. We hope y'all enjoyed, and we hope you come. What is it? What's the next day we're gonna be posting? Thursday.
Yeah.
Yes.
No,
Thing.
Monday, because
Oh,
this is
Monday.
going up Thursday.
Yes. This is going up
We're
tomorrow,
still figuring
Thursday.
it out. So
Next
we'll
time.
see y'all on Monday. We're gonna be talking about catfish. Anything about catfish? I think
Not
the actual fish.
We're talking about the hogs.
the hogs. I think you have a catfish murder. You
Yep.
have an
Just
Am I
like
the
no,
like
it's
a
not
story?
An, it's just like a story, yeah.
you have an episode and I have an episode, and then we'll just kind of just chat about it a little bit too,
Yeah.
just like what a catfish is. So
Come back and watch.
yeah,
See ya.
bye.
Thank you.
Like, subscribe, follow all
Thank
the
you.
socials.